Any others? Apologies for absence.
Councillor Gavel.
Disclosures of interests. Public have any questions? Have a 10 minute swap with 2 minutes per person.
I didn't think there was anything on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda today.
Finances. Accounts and audit for the year ending has circulated. To receive the internal auditor's report and to agree actions to deal with recommendations set out in the report. I wrote myself out a crib sheet which grew and grew, and then I thought that possibly a copy to each might help what was being suggested.
Excuse me.
Do we need to go through the internal auditor's report paragraph by paragraph? We've all had it for a while. Introduction, purpose and background. Anybody got any comments on that? No? Completion of the annual governance and accountability return. First few paragraphs are straightforward. Assertion 6, internal audit. Now, over the page, my comment 2.6. Council members should be aware the role of the internal audit is to review systems and controls rather than undertaking detailed checks that are more appropriate responsibility of the management. I understand that this is a reminder that the internal auditor shouldn't be asked to conduct detailed checks that the management should be asked to check.
I agree that that's my interpretation based on discussions with Patrick during this year's audit process.
Assertion 7, reports from auditors. We have that the 2021 internal audit report was issued and formed part of the council meeting agenda on 25th June 21. Progress report sought, but only received in May 22. So this delay has been noted. This report's recommendations will be started immediately with forming an action plan based on the council's responses to the independent audit report. And there will also be a year-end report for the auditor following the September budget setting process.
So we read this timetable with Patrick so that we know what he wants when.
Recommendations from Patrick that an action plan should be agreed in a timely period. That's accepted. The accounting method and year-end totals, straightforward. Section 4, financial and other controls, policies and procedures, policy reviews. Patrick picked up that The policy working group review of policies and procedures is presently work in progress and anticipated to be going on. We have met and will meet to catch up. Recommendation, policy and procedures, as just mentioned, 4.4.1.2, disclosable pecuniary and other interests. Member of the public, etc. The recommendation is that Patrick says the issue should be addressed and in writing with the Northumberland County Council's monitoring officer and the matter closed. As I understand it, this is my personal feeling, that our code of conduct is quite clear as to how disclosures of interests and other interests should be handled. Hence my paragraph 4.1.2 that refers.
Yes.
Yeah. Is the council happy with the way our code of conduct is written at the moment, or should we make it a bit clearer with the question of other interests? Should it be clearer that
So,
other interests are listed?
So just for everybody's, to refresh everybody's memory, it's currently laid out Appendix A interests, which are really the pure financial ones that you think of: employment, ownership of land, etc. They require you to declare the interest and leave the room and not vote. There's Appendix B interests, which you're not allowed to vote or speak on, but you don't have to leave the room, and they are where you have management of a governing body, you're in a position of governance, and or you've got there's effectively a bribe situation, you're receiving benefits of £50 or over. And then those are clearly set out because they're in Appendix A and B. Then there's a paragraph 15, which says if you've got another interest, which would suggest that you've got
Financial interest.
it says a financial interest of a friend, relative or close associate, other than an interest in Appendix A. And it's not set out as a separate appendix of its own, it's just in paragraph 15. But the restrictions are the same as for Appendix B interests. So you don't have to leave the room, but you can't speak or vote on it. So we're just saying, should we take the 15 out and move it to an appendix so that it's very clear, so it's like 3 clear types of interest, or are you happy with just having it in there? I think as long as everybody's aware of it, it's making sure that we are doing it, it's not a...
Surely the policy committee should look at this and then come back to it.
Can you agree with that?
Can do. But we are, at the moment, we are looking at Patrick's internal report.
That could be our action, that we're going to ask the policy review group to look at it. And then report back.
John?
No, it's fine. It's all right. Yeah, it's fine.
Do you have anything to add?
I'm sort of confused with A, shall disclose the nature of interests, and obviously, you and I are both on Rec Lane. We do say at the start of the meeting when Rec Lane comes up that we have an interest in Rec Lane, but it's both,
Strictly speaking, it's financial interests.
right.
In practice, we all hold our hand up and say, we have an interest of sorts.
Right. Well, but at what point does the ownership of land or the ownership of a house become not financial? Because you could get, you
Yeah,
could be
It depends, I would suggest it depends precisely what's being.
what's being discussed, but Appendix A does include the ownership of land.
But if for instance,
Land, any beneficial interest in land which is within the area of the
So
council.
I think if it touches on, if it's bordering your property, I would declare it an area on safe, so I don't think.
So I have declared it at every opportunity, but if we talk about recreation lane, because I have a land boundary to it, does that mean I should leave the room rather than just disclose an interest? Because obviously I'm aware that when you were talking about my specific case, I was asked to leave the room, but at what point is it acceptable for me to be there? For instance, when the contract for who cuts the hedge is talked about, I own half the hedge. So, I'm not trying to split the hair,
Well,
but
John, do you own it or do you lease it?
I own it. What, right?
The old allotment.
Yeah.
I think it's
But
going to depend on
The,
what we're discussing. Sorry, Lindsay. I just think that like last time when we had a meeting where the fair asked for access for vehicles up and down the lane, at that point you guys all declared an interest.
Yeah.
But that had no pecuniary interest to you. The fair asking to use the lane to go up and down.
But if
So I think if it was that case, then you wouldn't need to declare an interest as in like an A or a B.
But again, just for clarity, if the fair asked for access along recreation lane and I was charging them for parking, then it is a pecuniary interest.
Yes, yeah, right.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Right.
I think we're in a bit of a situation because we've got such a large proportion of the council that are on rec lane, and that is an issue to it in itself. But I think we're all grown-ups and we can, deal with this on a case-by-case thing. I think if it's completely clear that you need to be out of the room for it, I think then obviously.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that we should feel relatively comfortable about having a quick chat about,
Right.
at the time, and be able to discuss it and come to a conclusion about it there and then. If there is any kind of, lack of clarity on it at the time, if it doesn't fit clearly into one of these appendices that we've got, then I think we should be able to just have a quick chat about it and decide there and then.
Yeah.
Is everyone happy with that?
But then, sorry, not just for clarity, if then, when I had a planning application in, or you've got had a planning application in, it is, you declare an interest in the subject, but then should you have left the room or should I have left the room?
But we didn't discuss the submission at the meeting, we just, it's on the agenda, isn't it? But it's not like we're sitting here discussing what the council's response is going to be. I think, yes, if we did that.
So if it was to discuss a decision, then, yeah, okay. Right, thanks.
okay,
But I will ask the working group to have a quick look at whether they want to rearrange the layout slightly.
accounting records, 4.2. The records were found to be well presented with a good audit trail evident. Following maintenance contract expenditure, the approval process does not specifically ensure. I picked that up and my paragraph 4.2. As chair of the Retfield Committee, I can state that this had already been recognised. Claire and I have discussed it, and it will be sorted and will be on the next Retfield Committee agenda, which is later this month. That's just how we sign them off. Employees, weaknesses are evident in relation to staffing matters. There are currently 3 members of staff working, etc. 2 members of staff working do not have employment contracts. Long term, they have been paid under the PAYE system as employees. Legislatively, we are obliged to give them formal contracts that cover sick pay and holiday pay and the such. The Finance Committee, I believe, have made a start on draft contracts. As far as I'm aware, we're at a situation where they want a final scrutiny, possibly by a combination of the Finance Committee and the Contracts Working Group. And personally, I feel that any final draft we have should then be scrutinised by a professional on a formal basis, because these are critical documents and ignorance is bliss.
Quite good.
We're rattling through.
So how I see the timeline for that is, because Lindsay and I discussed it, and also with Patrick to some extent, that I see it, there's a few things that we need to sort out with the employees, that I see it as we get the contracts ready in draft that we're happy with, we would then get them looked at by an HR consultant or somebody suitable, and we would then have to have, then we would look to have a face-to-face meeting with each employee to discuss it, to address any concerns they might have, and to move them onto the new contract, which should reflect their existing terms, but just in case they've got a different understanding of things.
As long as they are reflecting their existing.
Exactly. So that's sort of the timeline, but we're moving forward with that. I have emailed out today to the Finance Committee and Contracts Working Group to take it forward.
Contrary to standing orders, there have been no performance reviews for the responsible finance officer. I know that the Finance Committee has brought that back in hand. I will pick up the one that missed a paragraph, wouldn't I? The Finance Committee have minuted the obligation to perform performance reviews. They commence in March 23 and thereafter annually.
I think we'll do that, we'll try again, we'll tie it in with the new contract, so I think we'll get a catch-up meeting basically, and then
You don't have to do it in one,
No.
you do it December.
true.
Within the year.
What the second annual plan when it starts.
Well, within your Finance Committee minutes would specify March.
We did say March because we thought it would tie up with the year end,
Well, I'm just saying, there's such a lot going on at the end of March. Maybe better February or January.
but we can,
That's why
Before the year end.
Yes.
but we're going to catch all, I think we'll get caught up with ourselves with the contracts, do the first meeting straight away, and then we can calendar in the next ones.
Previous year's internal audits, the bridge printer, that is now clear of the books without any, and financially we are right back to square one. There is no loss or gain. Overview and conclusion, waiting the external auditor. Yet again, reports promised and yet.
Never arrived.
Not yet, but they said end of June, so they've got a couple more days.
Anybody have anything they wish to add to responses for the internal auditor? Right. To approve the annual governance statement. So we'll put the next one on.
Okay, so this is the, you're looking at page 4 section 1, annual governance statement. We've got a list of assertions, 1 to 9, 9 doesn't apply to us. So 1 to 8 to go through, we have to say yes or no. Everywhere we say no, we have to give an explanation as why we say no. I've sent you the JPAD guidance and hopefully you had a chance to have a look through that because it has got some information about those assertions in there and examples of the kind of things we should be doing in order to say yes. So if we just go through one by one, that's probably the best way to do it. So statement 1, we have put in place arrangements for effective financial management during the year and the preparation of accounting statements. Yes means that this authority prepared its accounting statements in accordance with accounts and audit regulations. That's things to do like with the budgets, bank reconciliations, making sure the statement of accounts are prepared, that the reserves are correctly managed.
So, anybody see any exception to saying yes?
That's a confusing question.
I knew that. I knew that was something to be scared.
So go with a show of hands if every time to say, if you have to say yes. Okay, moving on, number 2. We maintained an adequate system of internal control, including measures designed to prevent and detect fraud and corruption and refute its effectiveness. Yes means that the authority made proper arrangements and accepted responsibility for safeguarding public money and resources held in its charge. So, well, I mean, as I say,
Well, there's no criticism from the internal auditor.
not on that, no. So it's I mean, we've got standing orders, financial regulations in place which we follow, etc. Can you show that a yes? 3, we took all reasonable steps to assure ourselves where no matters of actual or potential non-compliance with laws, regulations or proper practices that could have a significant financial effect on the ability of the authority to conduct its business or manage its finances. Yes means that this authority has only done what it has legal power to do and comply with proper practices.
Happy for that? Thank you.
4, we can't say yes to. The reason being, under assertion 4, we have to have displayed and published the notice of the conclusion of the external auditor's limited assurance review, which we haven't had, so we can't say it for that reason, but I think otherwise we have done all the exercise of public rights. So that's a no for that one. Number 5, we carried out an assessment of risks facing the authority, took appropriate steps to manage all those risks, including the introduction of internal controls and or external insurance cover where required. Yes means we considered and documented the financial and other risks it faces and dealt with them properly. Now, Patrick had said no on his, and I think it was just to do with recording. He felt that although we are risk assessing, we do the playground checks, etc. We do the property management team did some risk assessment earlier in the year, but we haven't got a very robust system for recording those risks in that they're not being, we haven't got a good record, so that if we looked back, we would find it hard to prove what we've done.
So you recorded the.
We do have a form for the monthly ones, but it's just it's not just about the play area. It's about the whole management of risks and things like checking the bank, which gets done from time to time. There's no formal system of recording it, and it doesn't get brought back. It only gets brought back if there's a problem. We're not reporting it to say it's been done.
So do we need to centralise that then?
And there's and I've sent a demo around at one point for a risk management system, which I sort of think would be a good way to go down, where it's all it's like it's the sort of thing you'll recognise from work, where it's a system which pings up checks and you have to kind of go through and tick the list, but then you've got a documented system. So
I thought there was a
It's
system.
the property management.
yes.
I thought that was in property management.
Well, we had like a list of assets and maintenance needed for the good state to repair that, which something a bit better going
Well, I think
forward.
the software is definitely worth exploring.
Yes.
Then it's recorded, isn't it? And it's easy to spot because it'll flag up what we've missed as well as you can put dates in. So I think my recommendation will be say no, and then we know what steps we need to take.
Okay.
happy with that.
That's what you do. Yes.
6, we maintain throughout the year an adequate and effective system of internal audit.
6.
6, that's not means it. Yes means that we arrange for a competent person, independent of the financial controls, to give an objective view on whether the internal controls meet the needs. And obviously Patrick's done a very thorough review for us.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to say yes to that one if everybody else is.
Yeah.
7, we can't say yes to, again, it comes down to the external audit. We can't say we've taken appropriate action on all matters raised because we haven't had their
We
reports
haven't
yet.
got a report for 3 years.
Four. 8, we considered whether any litigation, liabilities, commitments, events, transactions occurring during or after the event have a financial impact and where appropriate have included them in the accounting statements. Yes means we've disclosed everything it should have about its business activity during the year, including events taking place after year end if relevant. I think we can say, I think we can say yes because I'm not aware of anything that's not been addressed. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Good.
9.
9 we don't do.
No.
Just sign the box. Next we've got the annual, we have to approve our draft annual accounts, which look like these. So we've all had the cash book as well, so the figures from the cash book and from the cemetery accounts have been pulled through onto this. So unless anybody's got any questions, we can just approve those.
I didn't see it.
Any questions? Taken as read. All those happy?
Just one quick check. The membership for £70, we didn't pay for it.
Where's that?
Reserves.
No,
Oh, is that the maintenance?
that's the maintenance fund.
Right? It should maybe be put,
Yeah.
if it was in maintenance.
Yeah, I can do that, yeah.
You're not the man who machines for arms to send you.
No, they're about 2,500.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's to cover things like battery packs,
Yes,
battery
that's
replacements
fine. Oh,
if it
that's
gets,
fine.
if it gets
So you
used.
mentioned yes,
Yeah.
it'll come back to me, yes.
Okay, everybody happy with those? Thank you.
And
Okay, in which case we can move on to the accounting statement, which is this page 5, section 2, by all my numbers. So I've already signed it to say that I am signed by the financial officer before being presented, so that's signed by me. We have to approve them, so if you've approved the numbers are just putting across, unless anybody's got any questions, we can approve that.
John? All agree?
If you'd like to move where you signed. And then finally, the explanation of variances I've got on to approve just because it contains a bit of information. So this is a pro forma document from the external auditor, and it generates when I want to put an explanation. So again, if you've got any questions, I'm happy to take them.
You know, it says total cash and short-term investments.
Yeah.
Is there any short-term investments?
No. Well, we've got a much now. It used to be worth having, but it just renews itself every 3 months. I mean, I suppose we could shop around, might have some, but from reading around, I forget that they're so poor, there's not much point.
Anything paying prior interest is backwards.
But it doesn't, yeah.
Which,
We used to get sort of like, 10, 15 quid each time, now we get 49, pence back, it's something ridiculous, not very much.
when you say, going back years ago, Valley District Council, some of them won the election, and actually like that. And cost them thousands.
So are you happy with the explanation of variances?
Yeah. All show, please.
Fine, great, thank you very much. Let's move on.
Right.
This is,
We're done.
we're done.
Anybody, any final comments? The meeting closed at 7:47.